Here we go!
My friends, have you ever experienced something so weird that even you are not sure if it actually happened? Something you swear you remember happening, but no one believes you. Or maybe one friend or sibling was there, but you rarely talk about it because it was just so strange. These are the sorts of stories that nearly all of us have experienced one way or another, which truly speak to the unusual, liminal feeling of growing up, especially being the first generation to explore virtual, three-dimensional worlds on a daily basis. You know, there are some things experienced in video games, like the infamous tick-tock clock upwarp, or Toad passing through a wall in Bowser's Castle, that, if they were not captured on video, most would simply not believe to be true. And today we'll be looking at a handful which tie into the theme of this channel: video game folklore, 90s era history, mythos, and playground rumors. So sit back, my friends, pour yourself a nice beverage, and enjoy some weird childhood memories having to do with the Nintendo 64. Here's one to get started about a strange experience with Diddy Kong Racing boss Wizpig. Wizpig can be a pretty tough boss along your journey to beat Diddy Kong Racing, with no real trick as to beating him, rather than just what comes down to driving well. And yeah, there are some little tidbits that help, like tapping A instead of holding it down for a bit more speed, or correct timing letting on and off the gas at the zippers, but when you're a kid playing through your first time, Wizpig is quite a challenge, and you just need to play well to beat him. Sometimes, you might even need something bordering on divine intervention in order to beat Wizpig and progress through the game. Here's what viewer Wigmortem shared. Something that happened to me as a kid that I don't ever see discussed is Wizpig's first boss race when he's on foot. He fell or glitched into the water on one side or the other, and we beat the race unopposed. My sister did it and I saw. We weren't able to beat him legitimately for the longest time, and then this happened. What I love about this story is that it just sounds so believable, and you can picture such a scenario unfolding. You know, it's not dissimilar from things we've all seen in N64 racing games with the AI acting strangely. Wizpig getting stuck in a pond, glitchfully trying to get up and run around the course but failing, it's just so easy to envision. Wizpig is a solidly rendered character, and you can bump into his feet when racing, and so if his pathing somehow got messed up, you could totally see this happening. How it would actually go about happening, I'm not so sure. Maybe bumping into him the right way, maybe he tries to sidestep you if you get just under his feet and falls into the water, maybe a crooked cartridge or an infamous rogue gamma ray, maybe something else. But I can totally see Wizpig falling into the pond, and then his AI or pathing not being good enough to get himself out, just going through the motions of being stuck there while you drive around the course effortlessly and win the race. I tried messing around with Wizpig for a bit and seeing if I could get anything resembling this glitch, but no luck. Did this happen to anyone else? Do you remember any Wizpig glitches or odd behavior? I would love to hear more accounts of such a thing happening, assuming this wasn't a once-in-a-lifetime occurrence. Here's a funny one which I can almost hardly believe, but then again when I thought about it, I have kind of a similar story. So I was doing a live stream on the Speedlord channel, providing commentary on the latest GoldenEye full game world record by Perfect Ace, all 60 levels in about 1 hour 37 minutes. In this category, you must complete all 20 levels on all 3 difficulties, hence all 60 levels. On one watch through of Ace playing Control, I got this interesting commentary in chat from an Italian viewer named Tony Nubarez. For me, Control was impossible to finish because I didn't know any English in 1997-98. I had to wait for the GoldenEye movie to be aired on Italian TV to see what I had to do, or rather, see what mainframe meant. In the movie, you see Bond planting mines on those mainframes. It was only then I realized what I had to do. Of course, Tony was struggling with Objective C, destroy the armored mainframes, which, to be fair, can be a difficult objective. locating all the mainframes on the stage and finding explosives to destroy them. Once I posted this Speedlore episode to YouTube on the Speedlore channel, Tony left another comment elaborating further. I can add even more to my strange and unusual story. As a preface, back in the early 90s in Italy, people thought that French would become the European official language, so I studied French at elementary school. I played the whole Super Mario 64 trying to catch étoiles, never got a single star. In addition to this, in 1998, I was 7 and had no idea that 007 movies existed. I caught GoldenEye on TV by chance because my grandma was watching it and I got curious after hearing the gun firing noise. The first scene I watched was Bond trying to escape the facility and shooting the locks to make barrels fall onto Ormov and his soldiers. Of course, it took a second to realize that the facility and Pierce Brosnan looked just like the game I was playing. And yes, I had no idea what armored mainframe meant, to the point I thought they were bookshelves. In the movie, they're shown a few times, and I could see that they're actually computers looking exactly like in-game, and that they ended up destroying them. This is the second oldest memory I have of the game. Well, Tony, I wonder what the oldest memory you have of the game is. You know, it's a funny thing imagining so many European gamers trying to play GoldenEye without knowing English. I wonder how Tony advanced this far into the game in the first place. You know, some of the games did have European translations on the PAL versions of the game, as he mentions playing Super Mario 64 in French. GoldenEye's spiritual successor, Perfect Dark, has language options in the PAL version to play in German, Spanish, French, or Italian. But GoldenEye is only English, or well, Japanese as well. Completing some of the stages without being able to read English just sounds kinda crazy when you think about it. Like figuring out to pause and throw the tracking bug on the helicopter on Frigate, or just the entirety of Statue, knowing who to talk to and where to go. It all seems really insane to figure out without being able to read the objectives. And especially more so because I can't really imagine there were many French or Italian game guides online in the late 90s. But I actually have a similar story myself from around this time. I was in 5th grade, and perhaps unsurprisingly, I had gained somewhat of a reputation for being the guy who could unlock the cheats, like invincibility, for any of my peers who were not able to do so themselves. You know, I'd go to their house after school or whatever, beat the target times, unlock the cheats, and everyone would be a happy camper. So one day after school, I'm at my own childhood house, and a classmate knocks on the door, probably just after school let out, around 3:45 p.m. or so. He wasn't a close friend or anything, but a classmate, and we knew each other, and he needed advice, particularly on how to beat Control. Just like our pal Tony Nubarez, this classmate of mine also didn't know how to destroy all the mainframes. I invited him in to show him how to do it, but he refused to come in. I guess he was just nervous about entering the house, given we weren't close friends or anything, or maybe just some of that excessive Canadian politeness, not wanting to be a burden and impose on anyone. So instead I just described to him exactly how to do it, where to pick up the remote mines, where the mainframes were located, and all that stuff. And he seemed happy to be armed with this new knowledge on how to get through Control. The point is, even for someone who was a native English speaker, figuring out how to complete Objective C, destroy the armored mainframes, wasn't the most straightforward thing to figure out, because you need to pick up the mines, which are kind of hidden around a corner, I suppose, and then you need to locate the 6 mainframes. At least 2 of them are sort of hidden in inconspicuous locations. So ultimately, while Tony's story sounds truly remarkable, and pardon my Italian, but davvero notevole, I actually believe it. How he got all the way to Control without being able to read English, I don't know. But learning to destroy the mainframes from the GoldenEye movie, I can actually see that being true. What a remarkable childhood memory indeed. This next one must be so weird because while many of these memories take place in games that were played by millions, and thus many others in our nearby generations might have similar memories, or at least be able to relate, this one, well, does not. And Deck UA writes, I was in a focus group for Interactive Studios, Blitz, that tested Glover 2, Dragon Sword, and a weird 3D Frogger game in the 90s, which were all cancelled. I was 9 or 10 years old at the time, but I remember it vividly. I had a personal connection to one of the programmers there, and he got me hooked up with the focus group. A whole bunch of games got cancelled at the same time. From what I remember, it was mostly Hasbro's fault. Glover 2, by the way, is one of a handful of N64 games which were mostly or entirely completed, but just never ended up getting officially released on the console for one reason or another. But you can just imagine, it's kind of become a common topic in this niche to share weird places in video games that mean a lot to us, or places we explored and hung out while playing these games in our youth, these sorts of passing liminal spaces. But to imagine this poster is probably one of only a few dozen to experience certain locations and levels in Glover 2, it's just so unlike the shared experiences we all had in Super Mario 64 or Ocarina of Time, and it must just be completely surreal. And we can hear how surreal in a follow-up comment. When the ROM for it got released, I was blown away. Seeing the game exactly as I remembered it from 15 years ago unlocked a lot of memories from my whole childhood. It's so strange how something so esoteric and seemingly insignificant as a cancelled N64 game about a glove can actually have such an impact on someone. It goes to show how games really become a part of us and who we are. So yeah, apparently a ROM of Glover 2, which was mostly but not entirely complete, has made its way online in recent years, and there is some video footage of this game out there, which further jogged the lucid memories of our friend Deck UA, and one can just imagine how strange such a thing would be. Apparently a newer gaming company, Pico Interactive, now has the rights to Glover, and is both trying to re-release Glover on modern consoles, as well as eventually finish Glover 2 and give that an official release as well. So we'll see if any of that actually ends up happening. And maybe, just maybe, we'll get to experience a similar feeling as Deck UA felt playtesting Glover 2 all those years ago. My friends, when is Glover 2? Before we get to the last entry today, I would love to hear your strange childhood memory from this era of gaming, or even just strange memory. Whether it be a rare event that happened in one of these N64 era, PlayStation era video games, a one-off glitch, some weird playground rumor that was floating around, whatever. So send me an email or leave a comment below with your story. And who knows, it might just make its way into a future video. And while you're down there, be sure to subscribe and ding the notification bell, alright? Oh, and actually, I'm going to try to finally get around to turning on memberships for this channel, so keep an eye out for those if you would like to subscribe and support and maybe get some fun emotes if I ever eventually live stream here or premiere some videos, so keep an eye out for that. Alright, so here's one which I'm not sure if it's some sort of distorted childhood memory, an insane playground myth, or some kind of troll post, but here goes. If you've kept up with my channel over the years, you'll know one of Pokemon Snap's most sought-after records is the theoretical Charizard 4500 perfect score, which requires getting a perfect 1000 size Charizard score, in combination with the max pose and doubled for good technique. But this might be impossible because there's always at least this little sliver of Charizard's belly which is below the lava line and thus not capturable in a photograph. You can watch a whole video on this topic if you want to learn more. But basically, the childhood fantasy would be that there's some secret way to get Charizard to fly out of the lava pond, thus making his whole body capturable in a single photograph, and opening up the possibility of a 1000 size score. Of course, there's no known way to do this, and he was just not programmed to leave his little lava pond. But that's not what one commenter remembers from his childhood. Joey Holcomb left a comment on my Charizard 4500 video from November, which reads, "I've done it. You just have to get Charizard out of the lava and then apple him. he will leave the lava if you take one photo of a Charmander and one photo of a Charmeleon and no other photos, and then play the Poke-Flute for Charizard. Now, despite this sounding just like most playground rumors that circulated in the pre-internet and early internet era in the 90s, I decided to try out Joey's exact steps as described. After all, these steps aren't too hard to follow. And well, alright, Charizard did not fly out from his lava pond. I can't say I'm surprised, but it really does make me wonder, what exactly does Joey Holcomb remember? Does he have some vivid childhood memory of Charizard flying around in Pokemon Snap? Might he be conflating memories between Pokemon Snap and another game where Charizard does fly around? Did someone tell him this back in the day and he created a false memory in his mind of flying Charizard in Pokemon Snap? Is he blending memories of Charizard and Dragonite? Whatever Joey remembers, I truly don't know. But whatever the case may be, these sorts of weird myths are things that people who grew up in this era do seem to remember, whether they were actually true or not. And I just find that all so fascinating. Thanks for sharing these strange memories. May there be many more to come. Stay true, my friends, and I'll see you in the next stream or video.